joining the live, and thanks for joining the live once again. I would another time wait a while to give enough people a chance to join me during the live, but what the heck, I just go ahead and start it off anyway. So I happen to read this study, this pretty interesting study, and at the same time, pretty sad study based from January of 2024 earlier. And it talked about how out of all the races of women between black women, Hispanic women, and white women, as far as having kids by multiple men, black women outnumber all three, well, both races, both the Hispanic female population in the U.S. and the white female population in the U.S. by having the most kids by the most numbers of men. As a matter of fact, 59% of black women, 35% of Hispanic, and only 22% of white women. And I can't help but to wonder, why is it when it comes to picking partners, picking men, and wanting to have their kids by only one man, first and foremost marrying, because the majority of you black women are good in having out of wedlock kids. On top of that, to add insult to injury, you also are good in not only having out of wedlock kids, because some of you started losing your virginity as far back as during your middle school years, middle or high school years. Anyways, you also are very good at picking some of the most toxic men to have your kids by. Guys who are usually who fit the caliber of either a womanizer. If he's not usually a womanizer, he's usually a woman abuser. If not that, he's usually a guy who is a complete degenerate to society, a guy who is always getting into trouble with the law, can't stay out of jail to save his life, can barely hold a job, much less find one, due to so many black men leading a nation behind white men, and based upon the number of men, races, the different races of men who lead the nation and being incarcerated. And I can't help but to wonder, once again, why is that? Hey, and thanks for joining, Jasmine, Miss Jasmine. Why is it that so many black women in the U.S. take so much pride in having their kids not only out of wedlock, but having their kids by more than one man, not realizing how bad of a look that is? Hey, Parker, man, 16. Hey, whatever your name is, it's a foreign name that just came across my screen. Anyway, I don't understand this to save my life. And then so many of you black women usually look at that as so much of a badge of honor, so to speak, to the point where you make rap songs about it, the different men you may have all your kids by. Okay, thanks, Parker, man, 16, for subscribing and like. I really do appreciate it. Hi, Pokemon 101. But this has to stop. And okay, H-Dog, it's the culture. So H-Dog, could it be due to also social conditioning? Would you say that would be a big part of it as well? Because I just don't like how my race of women, my black women, take so much pride in first and foremost being single mothers. And I would say one reason why, and judging from my personal opinion, is due to feminism. You know, they feel like if a man could go around and have X amount of kids by X amount of women without it being any kind of consequences, without having to be shamed or judged, then so should they be able to as a woman. Whether you notice or not, women, black women, you'll never be able to be on a man's level. You'll always be judged regardless, especially when it comes to having more than one sexual partner. And to be honest, you're supposed to marry first before you carry, whether you know it or not. But see, due to black culture, how tacky black culture is, it's like it's almost no hope for my group of people on behalf of how, you know, we take so much pride from being baby daddies, us black men, to being baby mamas. And I feel like another part of it is due to the households we grow up in, the type of families we may have grown up in, because some of us may have grown up in families, will be part of families, whereas grandmama, where first and foremost, great grandmama may have had all her kids pretty much by different types of men. Our regular grandmothers may have had multiple kids by multiple men. Our aunties may have had multiple kids by multiple men, and so on and so on. In some cases, it could be a generational curse, a generational cycle as well. Okay, H-Dog, I think they grew up in the same situation and don't know any better. I mean, because it's just not a good look. And think about how many kids, every time it comes a special occasion, such as during a holiday, whereas you may like to, for all you black women who may have kids, different kids by different men, how, am I right or wrong, you always have to split your kids up. For instance, one kid may go to either his or her daddy's house to spend a holiday with him, then the next kid may have to go to a completely different father's house to spend time with them, spend the holidays with them, and so on and so on. A lot of you black women do not realize how much of a psychological and traumatizing that effect that can have on your kids. I'm not black though, so I can't comment too much. Okay, well, thanks for joining still, H-Dog. But a lot of you women just don't realize how that can have a long-term and traumatizing effect on your kids. Anytime you may have multiple kids by multiple men. And I feel like that's one reason why so many black males lead the nation due to the incarceration rates. And not just due to them having, a lot of them growing up in homes whereas they may have siblings with multiple fathers, literally. They may have around 4 siblings. Some of us black men may have grown up in homes whereas we may have had 4 siblings with 4 different fathers. And not only that, but each and every last one of the fathers may have been the types of fathers who got in trouble with the law, who made a habit out of breaking the law, who from the time some of us were first born until the time we reached adulthood, some of us never knew our fathers due to our mothers picking the worst calibers of men they could find. Guys, in most cases, who are just straight up savages. Guys who may have done, either maybe currently doing prison time on cases on behalf of grand larceny and theft, or if not that, capital murder, kidnapping. I'm just giving a few examples. Arson. A big part of, I would say another part of it could be, and this is just my personal opinion, you don't have to take my word for it, why black women prefer to have multiple kids by multiple men is due to how a lot of them just were raised and growing up from the time they were little girls to the time they were old enough to hit puberty and get a menstrual cycle. Some of them just weren't motivated to make much better choices in men, much less have married first. Well, I could go deeper than that. Courting first, whereas they were to meet, get that first boyfriend while in high school, for as an example. We talk to them over the phone on a regular basis before they would have started seeing each other. Go out on a few dates with that boyfriend. Eventually, after things developing more so more on a deeper level, them eventually becoming engaged, married, and then her having her kids, more than one kid by that one guy. See, it all starts in the home. A lot of you black women also grew up in homes whereas your mothers had all of your kids, once again, I will not quit stressing this, had all your siblings by literally different men. And it's just something that you started not only observing with the more you got up in age, but something that you looked at and something to be proud of due to a lot of your mothers, due to also a lot of your grandmothers, a lot of your great-grandmothers, some of your aunties, some of your female cousins. Well, how many of you who may follow my channel, you black women, have, as I speak, either a grandmother, an auntie, female cousin who happens to have multiple kids by more than one man? I'm sure quite a bit of you, due to how it's been ingrained for so long in our culture, on behalf of how it's a thing to be proud of. It's a quote-unquote badge of honor to have more than one kid by more than one man. Only to get older, only to reach, for some women to reach their 70s, their 80s, and regret ever doing things of that nature, feeling that ashamed of doing so, and wishing if they could turn back the hands of time, y'all, they could have had all their kids by one man. They could have, along with that, they could have married before they had their kids, and once again had all their kids by only one man, to prevent all that confusion. And this is one reason I would say why it's so many men in the black community who have to take on the role of being stepfathers, believe it or not, who have to take on the role of being the father, not by choice in most cases, of another man's kids. And in some cases, not only being the stepfather of another man's kids, but also having his very first and very own kid by that same woman whose kids he's the stepfather of as well. And if only we believe in doing things in much more of a traditional sense, us as a black whole, just imagine how if we would be a whole lot better off, that is, as a black race, we would be just a little bit better off if we believed in marrying first, the majority of us, then having kids after marriage. Think about, just maybe, and this is just my perspective, how that would be less STDs that would be running so much more prevalent in the black community, the black American community. There would be less STD or STI clinics in the black American community, less abortion clinics as well. And especially if we were to just wait on the Most High, wait on Most High's timing to send, for him to send us that anointed person who we could be able to first and foremost become engaged to, marry, and then have our kids with after marriage. But see, we look at that as something that's old-fashioned nowadays, something also that we may face a risk of being made fun of, about being shamed about doing things in that manner. You know, like some of our grandparents and great-grandparents, even parents in some instances may have done, whereas you court a person first. After you court a person, you become engaged to that person, then you end up marrying that person. And listen closely, after marrying that person, then starting a family. Just think about how it would be way less stepfathers if things were done in that kind of fashion, that kind of manner, and how there will be way less confusion as far as raising multiple women, raising multiple kids now, as opposed to so many black women taking so much pride in raising multiple kids, and in most cases, well, some cases that is, on their own, being the head of the household and raising all their multiple kids by multiple men. I mean, things are just so out of whack, so tacky, so dysfunctional, to the extent where it kind of, at times, makes me hate that I ever had to be black. It's dysfunctional as my black American race is. I'm just saying. Anyways, make sure you like, you also comment on this here topic, you share this video, last but not least, you subscribe to the channel. And until next time, I'm out, folks.